Good afternoon, John.
Hey, Marty.
John Donovan in Oceanside, Marty Keller here in Sacramento. John's back in Oceanside. Last time, I think you were up here.
Yeah,
And so I hope you had a good trip.
I had a great trip. Great trip. It was,
Nice, nice. Things are cooling down here. Fall is upon us.
yeah, same here. It's getting a bit cooler too.
So as the leaves begin to turn and the days get shorter and colder, there's still an opportunity for me to learn more about myself.
Yeah, isn't there always? Yeah,
You know, some people have what I guess they call it seasonal disorder, where um, the shorter days actually have an impact on how people feel. Be
yeah.
interesting to see if we could work the tree on that.
It's worse for everything else.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. I don't mind though. I grew up in Michigan and we had real seasons then, and
yeah, yeah,
February could get a little bit daunting because February was always uh, mostly overcast. So it wasn't just that the days were very short, but they weren't very sunny either. So,
right.
but you just knew spring was around the corner then.
Hmm.
So, a couple things on my mind. I'd like to maybe start out with, and obviously you always have something on your mind that we can share. I was thinking about um, letting people who watch our podcast know about the value of participating in accountability practice meetings.
Hmm.
Some folks who watch this podcast go to one or more of our meetings. You do the Saturday morning digging in the dirt group, and we have a Monday night meeting that Dan facilitates. We have the Wednesday afternoon meeting, the gut check meeting that I facilitate, and then we have a Thursday night meeting that Terry and I co-facilitate.
Hmm.
And then Duffy's starting a new meeting on Tuesday mornings. So there's a lot of opportunity for people who would like to really experience what we talk about here, um, to come and get involved in the work, ask questions, um, raise concerns, or perhaps there's something going on in your life that is baffling you, and you'd like to figure out if working the accountability practice tree can help you create a different relationship with whatever it is that's bothering you. So I just want to let people know I have been going to meetings now weekly for 10 years. And I go to 3 meetings a week and have been doing that for a long time. And I find, we've talked about this before, but I find there's such value in being in a group. There's this is my thought about that, John, and maybe you've got some thoughts too, but part of it is that I get to sit in a group of people who not only are doing the same kind of work that I am, but are absolute cheerleaders for me to get the breakthroughs that I'm seeking on I'm obtaining. And
Yeah,
I in turn am an absolute cheerleader for every other person in the room, creating the life that he or she wants.
correct.
And that's what the point of intentional living is, to live the life I intend. And so for me, it's really valuable, particularly when touchy subjects come up. How can I learn to um, have a conversation about things that I believe ahead of time before I raise them are going to cause some people to be unhappy and maybe even not like me? Like
Mm.
if the meeting has a certain topic and I don't like that topic,
Mm.
um, can I learn how to say in a group of people, I don't like that topic? Because my normal practice would be to just shut up and swallow it and then fume internally.
Mhm.
What I find is the group is a place to practice things that were dangerous in my family,
Right.
like
And
saying what I want.
like saying what you want. And the family rules, 3 family rules of a dysfunctional family: don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. And in the meetings, you can express, and people are going to listen and move on. It's like there's no judgment. It's witnessing, and like asking for, like, I don't like the topic, and having no expectation that everybody just like does what you want, and you're able to express that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in a meeting earlier this week when someone raised something that he was concerned about raising, and was able to start out by saying, I'm feeling nervous about saying what I'm about to say. I'm afraid that if I say this, I'll be rejected, but I want to say it anyway.
Hmm.
And you know, as almost always happens in a meeting, when someone shares something that that individual finds difficult, other people go, yeah, yeah, you know, I have the same issue.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you know, every time I've done that in a meeting, it's never occurred to me that I might be sharing something that, or sharing something about myself that other people feel the same way about themselves.
And are afraid to say it
Right.
also. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So that's also a part of the power of the group, is that the group witnesses our individual struggles to be part of a group,
Hmm.
to be able to feel safe to discuss things that feel dangerous inside, because they felt dangerous in my family.
Right. Yeah. Dangerous and life threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when I was in my early teens and I realized I was gay, it's like that was never going to be spoken of in my family. Mm-mm.
Mm.
So I'd rather suffer the pain of being isolated and afraid and wrong
Yep.
than be vulnerable to what I feared would be a stimulus for rejection.
Right. And I want to offer, in my family of origin, it was whatever I was going through that didn't match up or um, expose feelings to my parents was rejected. It's like, don't cry. What do you got to cry about? I mean, just the simple stuff, just to be able to talk without being called stupid or what are you
Right,
asking that question for? You're a busybody, all that.
right. Yeah, that's none of your business.
Right.
Or did, like, getting a sinking feeling, I would get a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. I'm thinking like between 5 and 10 years old, when my parents would withdraw and have a whispered conversation.
Right.
It's like,
Mm.
how is this impacting me? What are they not saying? Of course, it's all about me at that
Right.
age.
Right.
And so it's just amazing the ways that we learn to have those rules or to abide by those rules that were
Mm.
actually never said.
Right.
I didn't walk in the house and there was a chart on the wall. Here are the family rules.
Right. And they were well enforced, the unspoken rules that were well enforced.
Exactly. Is this part of what you call collusion?
Yeah. And that's coming from an unawareness or denial that there's anything wrong. It's, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I just wanted to offer those of you who have watched the podcast who have not had an opportunity to participate in a meeting, to check us out. They're all on Zoom, and I believe, John, you have the information on your website,
Hmm.
and which is donovancounseling.org.
Yeah.
Okay. .com.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. donovancounseling.com. Also, at the end of the podcast, John and I always have our email addresses listed. So if you want further information, you can just email either one of us and we'll be happy to send you the list of all the URLs, or just there's a particular one that you're interested in. We'd be happy to do that. So I think that, John, you have said in the past that my wounding came in the presence of others and my healing comes in the presence of others.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so,
I've gone to meetings ad nauseum, and then I got into counseling, and I hold meetings and/or have gone to meetings this whole time for 34 years.
right.
And there's more. There's more in there. There's always more in there. So
Well, I was sharing with a newcomer earlier today that she asked me, so what do you get out of this? And I said, well, it's what my mentor says. I have an opportunity to learn something about myself that I didn't know before.
yeah, yeah,
And it was really cool. She broke out into this big grin and she said, I like that.
yeah, yeah. We're not
Like,
the end all be all because we're facilitating. I'm still in a learning mode,
exactly.
and I know what I know, and I have the capacity to hold the space, and so that's what I do.
Exactly. And I give myself permission to not know what I don't know.
Right. Yeah. You'll often see me in a meeting take a deep breath, and that's when I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. I need help here. I have invisible means of support that download whatever's necessary in that moment for me to say, not say, do, not do.
Right.
Um, so,
So again, I just wanted to share that with people. There's great value and there's room. There's room in the meetings. So
why don't you go over each meeting and who the facilitator is and the time, and like they all have different names. Like mine on Saturday morning is digging in the dirt, and then there's 3 throughout the week now, soon to be 4.
correct.
Yeah.
So Monday night changed its name. It's now called Living from Within, the Living from Within meeting.
Uh-huh.
And we call ourselves that because that's everything starts inside me.
Right.
And so if I can learn to face without blame or judgment whatever's showing up inside of me, then I've got the key to living the life I choose to live. It starts there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Monday nights at 6:30, from 6:30 to 8:30. All these times are Pacific time. Then Wednesday afternoon is the meeting we call the gut check meeting. That's at 4 o'clock Pacific time. And that's a meeting that focuses on the body-mind connection. We say it's for people suffering for chronic illnesses and their friends. So like I have Crohn's disease, which is a chronic illness in the intestines, and people like John Sarno, medical doctor who lived in New York for many years, has passed away, demonstrated that many, not most, chronic diseases have an origin in childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And because trauma that's not healed remains in the body.
Yeah.
And this is one of the foundational understandings that we have in the accountability practice. And that's why the body is the source of all the wisdom that we look toward in doing our work. And what in that meeting, we have the opportunity to talk about our health, our physical health, that we don't usually talk about in other meetings, although we may begin to do that as the insights that we get in the gut check meetings start being socialized in the other meetings.
Right.
So there's an opportunity for us to look at how the accountability practice can help me heal physical symptoms. Now it can sound a little new agey or a little voodoo, and that's fine. We have no shoulds in this meeting. We're just on an exploration. So
Right.
if you'd like to explore more about that, you find that the accountability practice has made an impact on your emotional and spiritual life, here's another opportunity to extend that insight into the rest of us.
Right.
Because we aren't, our bodies and minds are not separate.
Right.
They're one activity. So that's Wednesday afternoon. Thursday night, we have the Rusty Nail meeting at 6:30 to 8:30. The Wednesday meeting is an hour and a half, 4 to 5:30. Thursday night, the Rusty Nail. We call it that. It's an old story about a guy who had a dog sitting on his porch and was moaning and groaning, and got passerby says, "Why is your dog moaning and groaning?" Well, he's sitting on a rusty nail. So why doesn't he get off? Well, I guess it don't hurt enough yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about those of us who cling to painful experiences in our lives rather than get off and make a change, because the pain we know is better than the pain that might come at us.
Right.
And again, that's a typical attitude of a child from a dysfunctional alcoholic family.
Yep.
It's an attempt to stay safe in a world that we perceive as threatening and unsafe. So, and the other thing I've learned in that is that I'd rather cause my own pain than let you cause me pain.
Yep.
So that's Friday night, or sorry, Thursday night at 6:30 Eastern time, and then you've got your meeting, which is Saturday morning at 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
I believe is a 90-minute meeting.
Yes.
And then
I'm thinking about making it a 2-hour meeting, because
okay,
we've gone over a couple times, and appropriately so, because people are in a process.
Sure. Well, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So Monday night is facilitated by our friend Dan Gutierrez, who's been on this podcast many times, and he'll be on the next one with us. And I facilitate the Wednesday afternoon meeting, and I co-facilitate with a young woman, Terry, who is a new facilitator, and on Thursday nights. And then our friend Duffy, as we mentioned, who was co-facilitating a previous Tuesday afternoon meeting, is starting a Tuesday morning meeting. And I think that's coming up next month. So we'll
and
share.
she's on the East Coast, so
Right.
she wanted to make a meeting that was available to more people on the East Coast. So that's why
Right.
the morning meeting. Yeah.
So if you're interested in that meeting, you can email John or me, and we'll be happy to send you the details. And when we have them in the next podcast, we'll also share them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I put in my invitation to the Saturday morning meeting, I put it in the invitation. You scroll down and you'll see each one of the meetings listed in the times.
Great.
And the invite information.
Right. So if you'd like to be on that email list and you're not on that email list to get John's invitation, again, just send us a note to the email address at the end of the podcast, and we will be happy to add you.
Okay.
So, and then God knows what other meetings the universe has under consideration.
Yeah.
Under construction, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know that I've ever heard you say this explicitly, but I certainly would love for there to be a meeting every day of the week. And I'd actually love there to be 2 meetings so different time zones can participate.
Here's my vision. My vision is that there be a meeting in each time zone all the way around the planet.
There you go.
There you go. So
24 meetings a day.
yeah, maybe two a day in every time zone. That'd be cool.
Right, but there's 24 time zones, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's 48 meetings. But you know, you think on a planet of 7 billion people, that's a drop in the bucket.
Drop in the bucket.
So for the newcomer, John,
Mm-hmm.
what is the source of that? What is the source of that vision for you? Why would that be useful?
Because the information presented in intentional living and the practice as outlined in the, I call it the accountability tree, is healing. It actually affects a healing in our subconscious without having to know the details of the subconscious. A lot of the wounding I received was pre-verbal, or even after I was verbal, there's no words to express the hurt or the pain that's involved in it, because I was told not to cry, not to. So I didn't even recognize it as abuse, and yet it's still in there festering it because I haven't paid attention to it and or healed it. And the accountability process addresses the subconscious, wounding. Here's what I've come to understand about me right now in this moment. I am acting in this moment from everything that I've accumulated in my mind, body, spirit. And it's the power of will. It's like taking a long trip, a drive, and then you go for a couple hours, and then you just discover, oh my God, I don't remember anything because I was on autopilot. We all recognize that, where I was on autopilot. Well, autopilot means I was driving the car from my subconscious, so I could either talk to the person that was with me, have a conversation, listen to the radio, listen to a podcast. And the subconscious was taking care of all the details about my driving and slowing down, speeding up, changing lanes subconsciously. Well, that subconscious accumulation information, that pool of information, is driving me right now. Everything, every action I take is coming out of that subconscious pool of information. So when I pay attention to where I'm at in the moment, and this is where I'm accountable for whatever behavior I find myself in, and not just the character defects, the abusive or dismissive or ignoring somebody, but all the behavior is coming out of the accumulation. So if I own the moment, like where I struggle mostly with is on the freeway. So I find myself in judgment of people and how they drive. So okay, that's where I'm at, and that judgment is coming from my total experience. So if I own in the moment, I'm judgmental. I call myself the hall monitor of emergency traffic. It's like I'm that little guy in the hall making sure everybody's walking in the right direction and walking fast enough or not too slow. And then I just own that. I'm judgmental. I have a need to be right, whatever it is. And then I take a breath. I intend to be gracious, or I intend to be a defensive driver. I like the word gracious, because being a gracious driver feels good. It's like not having to be the first one at the stoplight or the stop sign is a cool experience. And then I get to enjoy my ride. Or if I'm talking to somebody, be there, be present with people. So I own the behavior, and there's something in me that little kid's holding on to, that's in judgment. Let's do this right. I don't know how many times I was ridiculed for being clumsy or walking weird. Or I remember one time my mom was taking a picture, and she said, "Smile." So I just went like that, and she goes, "Not like that. Do it like you mean it." And I'm like, I'm like frozen. It's like, so I don't even know how to smile right. So those things are stuck in my subconscious. And then when somebody does something, I go into a fight, flight, freeze, please mode, and I find myself in judgment or in some kind of stress. I choose to notice my stress, breathe through it, embrace it, instead of saying, I should be better, I should know better. I haven't heard myself say that to myself for a long time. And I do get judgmental. So I use the accountability process to move that stuck energy through me. And I find myself, driving the freeway, getting on and off without any incident. I find myself just driving my car without having to notice when everybody's doing it wrong or how they drive or whatever. So
You mean you turned in your hall monitor belt?
My little badge that I had, I turned it in. So, and that means I live a stress-free life, and I'm alert and driving safely. So I'm not in an adrenaline rush. I'm present in the moment. This also works with like relationships. Somebody irritates, agitates, otherwise annoying. I own that as my choice of whatever the feeling is, because nobody can make me feel. So I used to believe you could make me feel angry. Well, no. If I choose, if I experience anger and I'm feeling anger, that's what's happening to me. That's what I need to pay attention to. That is my choice. That is my choice of paying attention to what's going on with me. I came home from, I was in a violence intervention class, and I came home to my partner at the time, and she said something, and I saw myself using emotional and verbal violence. I was dismissive, and I raised my voice and said something to her, and I owned it. And a couple of weeks later, I came home, and she said the same thing, and I found myself curious or humorous, and at that moment I got it. It's not what she's doing, it's my reaction or response to what she's doing. I get to choose that. And it was a significant moment in my life where I actualized I choose my feelings. It has nothing to do with everybody else around me. And that's one of the benefits I got from being accountable. Every time I dismissed, ignored, or redefined, raised my voice, threatened, I just did violence to you. I raised my voice. I dismissed you. I turned my back when you were talking, ignored you, and I'm practicing being a nonviolent man. It was my choice to do all this. And I know that choice, that reaction is coming out of that wounded little boy. So if I pay attention to myself, I'm attending to that wounded child, which is in adult children of alcoholics 12-step meetings, loving parent. So I'm giving to myself the parenting that I did not receive as a child. I'm accepting myself. I'm not judging myself. I'm just saying the behavior without blame or judgment and feeling now the hurt of dismissing somebody. That I can feel the separation, and I don't want that anymore. So it was my violence had nothing to do with you, and I'm practicing being a nonviolent man. It was my intent to be gracious and kind. And I find myself interacting with people graciously and with kindness. And I get that feedback. I remember talking to somebody that was on a Zoom group, and I'm not sure, said, John, I want you to know that I see kindness in your eyes. And I went, oh, wow, thank you. Wow. See, I'm not thinking I need to like pursue, it's that healing of the old wounding whenever I was accountable for whatever behavior I found myself in. It is my intent to be kind. It is my intent to be gracious. So that kindness that she saw was coming from that subconscious pool of information that I have been attending to instead of ignoring and dismissing, not feeling, not owning my state of being, whether it's irritated, agitated, otherwise annoyed. I'm owning that now and then creating an intent of what I want to be. So,
So would it be accurate to say that when you, as a result of your setting an intention to be kind and gracious, that the first recipient of that kindness and graciousness is yourself?
yes, yes, it would be accurate to say that because I'm less critical, I'm less judgmental, I don't have expectations flying out of my mouth like I should, how come I very rarely experience myself with a should or a criticism. And when it comes up, it's like, there it is. There's another opportunity. There's something in that. I mean, my wounding came on a minute, moment by moment basis. So people say, well, how many woundings are in there? And I said, well, how many minutes in a day? How long were you awake? How old are you? How many how many minutes in 10 years? It's like it was constant. It was pervasive. So there's this this rot of trauma, and I've addressed, I don't even want to venture a percentage, but I've addressed a majority of it. And I find myself living my life graciously. I find myself in a flow. I find myself in this synchronistic life that is exciting and adventurous. And I get to continue to build on the intents. I mean, when I first said I intend to live in peace, it came from a pool of information and it had some urgency to it. Now that I say, after, like, say, 25 years of accountability, I said, is my intent to live in peace? There's that whole different feeling, a whole different motivation that goes into that intent, which deepens and broadens my capacity to be in the state of peace, a state of being of peace. There's turmoil and chaos going on around me, and or issues that are maybe tragic, maybe, I just assisted my daughter with one of her dogs had a brain tumor, and we needed to put her to sleep. And my daughter wasn't able to do that, so I said, I'll do that. So we called the vet, and I held the dog. Now, and I moved through that with grace. I didn't think my daughter should do it any way except the way she felt good about doing it. And when the vet came there, she decided, I need to go. I can't do this. Oh, fine, I'll do this. And I moved through that with grace. And I'm glad I was able to participate. I love that little dog too. It was almost my dog. If it wasn't the fact that it was her dog living at her house, it would have been my dog, because every time I went over there, that dog was in my lap. So, and there's I talk to people. I'm going to offer you the information, accountability tree, intentional living, so that you can live a rich, abundant, full life. I just described something that is painful, sad. And what I've discovered is me participating in that with grace is the richness and abundance and fulfillment of life. I mean, I had tears, I was crying, I was like, what am I doing the right thing? Oh my God. And then I went through it. And I went through it with grace. And it was an opportunity for me and my daughter to bond, because she felt protected by me. She felt supported by me. She felt, oh my God, it was just blissful and tragic all at the same time. Wow.
Can I share my experience of that?
Yeah, yeah.
I think I've shared it before, but it's apropos. That was because, as you know, this summer I had COVID, and then I developed these blood clots that
Right.
accumulated in my lung. And in fact, it was after a podcast that you and I had recorded, and I went out to the mailbox to get the mail, and I found myself incredibly short of breath, and my chest was tight, and so I called the advice nurse, and she said, "Call 911. You need to get to the ER." And I went to the ER, and they did a CAT scan, discovered these clots in my lungs, and admitted me to the hospital and said, we recommend doing a procedure where we're gonna put a wire up your vein through your groin, and we're gonna actually literally scoop the clots out.
Wow.
And what I noticed is that from the moment the vice nurse said you need to call 911, I had a little like energy. And then I had this other energy, because I intend to create a world of joy, peace, freedom, and community. That's the world I'm creating with
Right.
the support of my higher power. What I found was a sense of peace overcame me, and the sense of peace said, "Let go and call 911."
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment on until the moment I left the hospital 3 days later, I just let people take care of me. And I saw everybody as kind and caring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any of these people from Adam. And but that's because I choose to live in a world of peace, of joy and freedom and community. I felt myself in a community. I felt myself in a community of people who were actively on my side. They cared about me, and they were going to do whatever they could to help heal this physical challenge. And they did. And as you were saying about, having moments of sadness while you're holding the dog and whatever. There are several moments I felt terror.
Mm-hmm.
They're wheeling me down to the operating room, and I felt, oh my God, I'm going to die. And so I just acknowledged that.
Yep.
I just said it out loud. I'm really scared.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that were working with me said, yes, of course you are. We understand, and we're going to take care of you, and you're going to be okay.
Wow.
So just the act of giving voice to what I was feeling, this is what you're talking about earlier. I was present with what I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm willing to be present with things that are difficult and unpleasant, I had no inhibition about giving voice to them.
Right.
And so when I gave voice to them, this is my reality. I spoke it into my community, which was this group of strangers at that moment, medical professionals. The anxiety left.
Yeah. Wow.
It went. So I I haven't been doing this work as long as you have, and my experience is similar.
Yeah.
And that's why I go to 3 meetings a week. That's why I do counseling with individuals, and because it's it's part of being in a community.
Yeah.
And I receive that healing power, and I receive it because I'm learning to love myself and receive my own loving energy.
Yeah.
Which for years and years and years, in that subconscious pool of information that you just talked about earlier, I had a barrier to my own self acceptance and self love,
Yeah.
of which I was entirely unaware, even though I was projecting it out there,
Mm-hmm.
which resulted in don't come too close. You can
Right.
come this close, but no closer. Um, all of that has shifted.
Yeah.
And there's more to go, there's more to come. And I don't feel any anxiety about when that's going to show up, when will new stuff be revealed. It's like, it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I intend to be open and learn.
Yeah. I tell people I'm not offering you this information to stop the struggle of life. I'm offering you this information so that you can participate in the struggle that life is with grace and humility and kindness and compassion. Because it is certainly a struggle, and you never know where it's going to come from. You never know what's going to happen. So,
Can you talk a little bit about um, the why is it that the access to creating that life that you just talked about is through the body and not the mind?
uh, um, we've been told, I've been told, I don't know about we.
You can
Uh,
probably include me in there, John.
okay, I was raised Catholic, so
Me too.
okay, so I was told that my body was weak, that the flesh was weak, and that God was strong, and that I needed to ask Him and beg His mercy so that I could, this poor, pathetic thing, could be next to Him. Okay, so the message was the body is something to avoid, to conquer, to beat down. There's
The
this
discipline.
practice, yeah, the practice in the Jesuits is self. It may be other places too, but self-flagellation. If you have a feeling or a desire or a sense of sensuousness, you beat yourself until you beat yourself out of it. And we do that in our family of origin dysfunction, childhood trauma, because kids are seen as little savages that need to be tamed instead of seen as brilliant, magnificent spirits on this learning journey. I work in the addiction field, and our 4 concepts, clinically speaking, what we're assisting the clients through is emotional regulation, impulse control, frustration tolerance, and delayed gratification. And it's a extensive field, and it's not just the addiction field, it's the American Medical Association, American Psychiatric Association, to help people just simply be okay. Well, I did not learn emotional regulation, frustration tolerance, which is in my body, in my feeling, emotional body when I was a child. Every time I had an outburst or I was learning how to regulate, I was chastised or punished for not getting it right. So I shut that down into my body. Our bodies, who is it? One of my teachers, Sadhguru, says one cell in your body has more memory than all the computers and all the encyclopedias and all the information on the planet put together, because it remembers what your great 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 grandfather's nose looked like, and he put it right there. Put it right there. So this memory that we have of trauma, subconscious, it's like my skin tone and my facial features and my body coming from ancestors. If we go back in the ancestry, I look a lot like some of them. That's the memory. When I'm wounded as a child, my body, not just my body, but my emotional body, which is bigger than my physical body, and my feeling body, hold these traumas in the tissue. Geber Mate, Basil Vanderkok, and I'm not saying his first name right, Bruce Lipton, Peter Levine. These are all doctors who talk about the effects of unresolved trauma in the body. It's the source. You talk to a doctor, what's the source of heart problems? And they'll say stress. So okay, go meditate. And it's like, I'm like traumatized. Gabriel Monte says complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, that's in my body. That's in my tissue. That's in my
Well, it's a
aura.
physical reality, not just a psychological one.
It's a physical reality that creates body chemistry.
Right.
If I'm in a combat zone, everybody can testify and understand that soldier in a combat zone is in an adrenaline state. He's in a dangerous situation and he needs to not feel, which adrenaline is not feel. That as soon as it pumps into your veins, you're out of your emotional body. You're not taking things personal. You're just responding because the intensity of what's happening is fatal, and you need to respond. You don't need to think or judge them, or you just respond.
Or be inhibited by your feelings,
Or
by your
be inhibited
fears,
by,
for example.
exactly. And it gets you out of your rational mind. It gets you out of the
Right.
time it takes to figure, well, if this happens, it's boom, you're reacting. So the childhood trauma creates these reactive responses, not because somebody's shooting at me, because somebody raised an eyebrow and I got whacked. It's in my body, subconscious. So when somebody in a group, I'm talking to people, they're all friendly, I know them all, I know they all love me, and it's like everything's cool. Somebody raises an eyebrow and I get tight, I get tense, I want to go. It's like I can't wait to get out of there, and I don't understand why. Because that stimulus, and I call it trigger, stimulus of whatever happened to me as a kid is still in there, and the memory goes, oh, this happened, this, you need to like shut down. So I'm at a place where I want to be with the people I want to be, and I find myself shutting down, wanting to leave. It's like I work through social anxiety. Every once in a while that will come up, and I know now that that little boy is scared and something's going on new, and I just acknowledge I'm feeling anxious right now. I'm got a little panic going, and I know that it's unhealed trauma. So I just be with myself, and I can feel the tension leave my body. So Basil Vanderkok, when the body says no, talks about how the body responds, how the body is smarter than you are. Geber Mate, what's his name of his book? It's not When the Body Says No, but he's got
His new book is The Myth of Normal.
The Myth of Normal, and he
And
wrote
then
a book,
Hidden Ghost, wasn't that the name of his first book?
in the realm of hungry ghosts.
Hungry Ghost, right.
Yeah, yeah. But he wrote a book about how the body's affected, and his belief is what he knows to be true from his experience as a doctor is that 98% of the ailments that people suffer are from unresolved childhood trauma. So and if I don't address the body where it's stored, that's where the feelings come in. We have this saying in the 12 step, if you can't feel it, you can't heal it. So feel what? Terror, terrified. I'm in a group of people that I love. Somebody raises an eyebrow. I'm scared. It's like you wuss, you weenie. You. It's like, what's wrong with you? Now I know to say, I'm feeling fear. I'm feeling anxiety because it validates that little child in me that's scared to death, that is responding fight, flight, freeze, please, through pumping adrenaline through my body. So if I nurture that, it goes, oh, okay, I'm okay. And the adrenaline goes away and I regain my composure or body chemistry of serotonin. I don't know all the names, norepinephrine, the feel good drugs or the feel comfortable or the feel safe drugs in my body. So just
So
ran out of words.
you said earlier, I want to tie this together. So you said earlier about the constant exposure to these stresses as a little kid, this
Yeah, yeah.
complex PTSD. So imagine adrenaline being pumped all the time.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the body, so how did the body has to adjust to this abnormal infusion of this secretion?
Okay. So when you're in an adrenaline dangerous place, your body pumps adrenaline. So all the energy in your body is taken from your immune system, from your digestive system, from all those systems that aren't important right now. Because if a saber-toothed tiger's chasing you, you're not worried about how you're digesting the last meal. You need to respond and move to safety. So in this chronic adrenaline rush, I want to offer, I lived in a stress mode, and I'm going to introduce cortisoids because you got adrenaline. There's some other drugs, but it creates steroids, stressors in your body, and you see that now as not you. I saw that as normal. I normalize it. This is the way life is. This is what you got to do. This is how life works. And I didn't even realize I was in a stress mode. Um, I am fortunate a couple ways. One, that I decided to quit drinking because that was the only relief I got from this stressor, because the alcohol uninhibits and I could talk and feel at ease. And it was killing me. Not just the alcohol, what it did to my liver and my internal organs, but the stressors I was living with, constant stressors. In the 12 step, we call it hypervigilance, always looking out, wondering when the next shoe's going to drop, wondering when somebody's going to pop off, but you never know. And you can't trust these people anyway because you don't know what's going to happen. So I'm in this hypervigilant state, which I'm in an adrenaline rush, which means the energy that could go into my immune system is hijacked by this hypersensitivity. And my immune system fails, and I find myself, well, I'm a two-time cancer survivor. Um, I have stress in my knees. I have, that's pretty much it. Um, issues with eating, all due to unresolved childhood trauma. In this process that I'm going, I'm healthy. I can say I'm healthy. If I get sick, like I feel a cold coming on, I start taking my vitamins or my herbs, whatever I need to take to address and fortify my immune system. My immune system is healthy because I intend to live in peace. Because I find myself in this tranquil, serene, peaceful place where I can simply interact with who I choose to interact with. And be proactive in my life instead of reactive. I was totally reactive. Now I can see what's going on. I can choose, how do I want to participate? Do I want to participate? Is this a firm no, or is this a maybe, or how do I want to proceed with this? I've moved from reactive to proactive, which means I have healthier chemistry, body chemistry.
So the accountability process always starts with being focused on what I'm feeling. And particularly, go ahead.
Okay. To begin with, I didn't know what the hell I was feeling. I didn't know I had a feeling.
Right.
And if you say, how do I feel? I'll tell you, well, I think everything's okay.
Right.
Well,
I'm doing great.
yeah, I'm doing great. So to begin this process, what I did was own being violent when I was dismissive. I still wasn't in my feeling body, but I learned to go, oh, I intend to be nonviolent, and
So you notice your behavior first.
behavior, and then I own the behavior. When I owned the behavior, it put me in my feeling, but it took a while for it to register that that is a feeling. When I take people through, I say, I want if you say the truth, like say you say you're mean, you just dismiss somebody, I'm mean. Take a breath. You're in your feeling body. Well, I didn't recognize that. I didn't recognize what the emotions were, because in our culture, we talk about emotions as extreme or hysterical, angry, stormy, and emotions are on a scale from 0.1 to 10. So they could be real subtle, and that's an emotional state. And it took me a while to recognize what these emotions were. And on top of that, our language about our emotional body is very limited. Even when we come up with a word that's close to the emotion I'm feeling, like a feeling of uplifting, there's really no words to describe that in our language that we've agreed to use with each other. It's very inadequate. So it's more of like, get in a feeling, take a breath, allow the feeling and emotion to just be. And in that feeling, emotional state, I find that my logical mind is fed from beneath. It comes up this way. And I find myself talking, not thinking, but expressing from this pool of information that for me now, for you, has been healed through this process of simply owning the behavior. And I remember the first time I realized that humiliating somebody was hurtful, because I said, I mean to the point of cruelty. And I had a specific image in my mind with one of my daughters where I had said something to her that was real hurtful, and I felt that hurt. It's like, oh, it was like a blinding flash of the eye. That's what they're talking about. I had no idea it felt that way. And when I felt that hurt, my next thought was, I am not doing that to somebody else. I do not want to inflict pain. And so it's this process of growth and maturation and healing. Oh my God. Taking people through the accountability tree, I'll ask them to say the truth, whatever their truth is. I'm a no good piece of shit. And then take a breath. And then I can sense the emotion, the feeling. And I said, that's it right there. I say, just, that's it. It wasn't what you thought it was. That, whatever that was, that's emotion and feeling. And it's sometimes real subtle, sometimes just immense, whelming of emotion and tears or joy. It's like, oh, that's what it is. Oh my God, I had no idea. Well, of course you had no idea, because every time you got into an emotional state as a child, somebody slapped, hit, chastised, punished for you being in an emotional state.
And so then we developed this defense mechanism that kept us away from it.
Right. And it actually became the enemy to the fight, flight, freeze,
Right.
flee. Every time I had a feeling, I would go into an adrenaline rush because I knew I was going to get hurt now because I'm vulnerable. So I shut down.
So in the few minutes that we have left, let's talk about the next step. So I have owned the truth. I felt the impact of that. I'm mean to the point of cruelty, or in my case, as I've shared before, I like being in debt.
Right.
I like fearing I'm going to lose everything,
Right.
and then just be present with that feeling.
Right.
And
And
then
in
the
the
next,
process, the way the tree's outlined, tell the truth, feel, take the breath, feel that, and then say what you want using the word
exactly.
intent. And like I mean to the point of cruelty. Oh my God. Oh, and there's a constellation of feeling. I say, it's like you don't have to name it. It's impossible to name because it's coming from, I don't know how many thousands of sources or
Right.
events that are coming together and whelming up.
And if you try to name it, you'll stop feeling it.
Yeah. So feel that. And then something, I said, what do you want? Then something will come out of this feeling state like, oh, I intend to forgive myself. Well, yeah, wow, wow, how profound. And that comes from them. At first, I offer, because we're not used to going, I want to feel peaceful, I want to be kind. We're expected to be all those things and can't never manage it, but I intend to be kind. It's like that, that vibration, that sound, I intend to be kind, is felt by our bodies. And it goes, oh, seeps into the subconscious, is now part of that total amount of information that's creating my behavior at the moment. And it shifts to, oh my God, I didn't yell or I didn't respond or I didn't, oh my God, this is, oh wow, this is how, what happened is like, I used to call it being blindsided by healthy behavior. It's like, oh my God, I just did that. It's coming out of my total accumulation of subconscious and conscious awareness, and it will manifest just like the meanness manifested from the wounding because it was in alignment with the wounding. You act mean, people stay away from you, and that's what subconsciously this little boy wanted everybody to stay the hell away. And he found that being mean would like provide that. And this is all unconscious. I didn't like decipher this and oh, I'm going to be mean to this person and they'll like take 2 steps backwards or they'll get a startled look and like run away or I didn't plan that. And that was the end result of the trauma. Now it is my intent to be kind. I'll take a breath. And I get feedback like I see kindness in your eyes. I feel safe around you. You provide safety. I don't know what it is, John, but I feel comfortable around you. Well, yeah, because I'm intent on creating safe space. I'm intent on providing safety for people to look at things that are, oh my God, terrifying, terrifying inside. And once you name it, I mean to the point of cruelty, it loses its power. It's validated. That little child says, thank you for hearing me finally. I've been working so hard to keep you safe. And it makes no sense, common sense, rational sense, and yet it works that way every time. Blows my mind. Every time I see somebody go through it and I see this sloughing of tight, tense energy in their face softens and their eyebrows come, their forehead comes down and they got this smile. Oh, that's it. That's it. Do it again. Let's do it again. Let's figure out a way to do it again. Um, and in that moment, not only they heal, I heal. I experience myself as a nurturing being. Oh my God. Oh my God. What a blessing.
It's like the title of that book that's often used in AA, a drop in the rock. Just drop that rock.
Drop the rock.
And what that feels like when you're no longer dragging this huge weight around. I remember the first time I had that experience in our group, and like you said, there's no way to prepare for it because it's not in our experience, or it's been so buried in our experience that
Right.
we don't have access to it. And then all of a
We,
sudden it erupts.
and then we call it epiphany, we call it spiritual moment, we call it enlightenment, we call it
Breakthrough.
getting knocked off your ass by a lightning
Right,
bolt. Paul did. It's like, oh my God, what was I thinking? It's like,
right.
this is so beautiful. It's like, ah, yeah, wow.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground, and we've come to the end of our time together. And so I just want to reiterate to those of you who are listening who haven't had a chance to experience this, come to a meeting.
Yeah.
Come to a meeting and experience this for yourself.
Right. And you can come, darken your screen, put yourself on mute, and watch us. See what we do. Make sure it's like, okay, are these people safe? Well, okay, check us out. Watch us do this. If you see that we're safe and you want to participate, fine. If you want to like come for 6 months and not identify, I don't. It's just please come and experience.
Yeah. When I first started ACA, I didn't say anything for 11 months.
Yeah, that was my experience too.
Only in those days you couldn't darken your face. You still had to be present.
Yeah,
But that's okay. I survived.
yeah.
Well, as always, John, thank you for your time and sharing your wisdom. And I look forward to doing this the next time.
Okay, me too.
Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Love you.